you already introduced me a little bit, but just to give you maybe and all the auditorium a better imagination what my background is. I'm working on a law and design and the interface of law and design for over 15 years. Even in a time when we didn't have the expression legal design, I was trying to fit together two professions. I have a degree on, I'm a lawyer and a designer. I worked in different industries, for example, in a legal service startup company as a subsidiary of Munich Re in the insurance industry. I worked as a law firm lawyer and was not so satisfied how we are working as lawyers in law firms. That's why I also changed my career, to be honest. I also worked in the service design industry to bring together the best out of law and design. I'm now also a lecturer of the Bucerius Law School, but especially for the executive education. So not so much, or not yet, I would say, for students, which is a pity, but as you probably also realize, it is not so easy to change a curriculum. But I think we all agree, or all legal designers agree on that we have to, change something here in terms of education. And as you also mentioned, I'm a co-founder of a nonprofit organization, Liquid Legal Institute. It is a global legal think tank where we come together, and legal design plays not the major role, just to say that. So the Liquid Legal Institute is more a think tank, how we together worldwide could tackle especially the topics of standardization, and have also an idea of how we overcome all the challenges that we are facing right now in a true collaboration and interdisciplinary collaboration. So it is worth having a look there, but it is not only about legal design. So legal design is my profession as a consultant. I'm working with big firms as well as with law firms and also legal tech companies. Yesterday we heard a lot of, oh, now it's frozen, right? Don't move anymore. So no, now it's moving, I'm sorry. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't work. I have to just go out again. So my computer is frozen. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Maybe if you share the presentation with one of our team members, they can also share screen, but we can wait
also. The thing is that I can't go out of the presentation right now, and I don't know why. Maybe I have to go, now it's moving, so let's see what happens. So as you yesterday already heard, legal design is an innovation method. And let's say that the two keynotes yesterday, I was also capable to listen a little bit to, were about a systemic impact, and also Antti will talk about the systemic impact of legal design. But I wanted to give you an overview what, in my opinion, legal design is. So first of all, it's the innovation method, but it is also a certain mindset and a global movement. Yesterday, Marie were also talking about that the Financial Times were now coming up with a article about the Legal Design Summit, for example, 2 years ago, or yes, and there were a couple of summits already. And it's really going to become a real movement. And as we have seen with the legal tech scenery, let's say, probably we are going into a similar thing now. It's becoming more and more a hype, and more lawyers and professionals working in the legal industry realize that there might be a very good method to innovate. It is also a new way to develop really relevant client value. So from the perspective of lawyers and law firms especially, there is a huge opportunity area for them to create a really USP and have new services and products to offer for their clients. And it is also a toolkit for new legal experiences. And what legal experiences are, I will go on later. And again, my computer is frozen, so this is really bad. I don't know why. So probably this is all very distracting right now.
No, it's okay.
I'm sorry. I think I have to stop and go in again. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. Let me try it again. As you yesterday also saw, and I don't want to repeat everything, but just for people who did not spend maybe yesterday, today, it's interesting to see what the method really relies on, or what the combination of legal and law and design really means. For me, it is a hybrid of law, legal tech, and design thinking, if we talk about legal design, with always a strong focus on user needs and useful solutions that are, one, legally waterproof, but also easy to access. And as we know, design thinking is a human-centric method. It is always crucial to put humans and people in the middle of all investigation. And on this outer circle, you see all the different design areas that we are tackling with legal design, because many people think legal design is only graphic design, but it's not. So we have a broad areas of different disciplines in design itself that we can use, and is very useful to take for legal design as well. One might ask why we need such a thing and such a method like legal design, and it is, besides that the legal industry is under a lot of pressure, because everything has to be more convenient and also less costly, especially for in-house departments. They have to do more with less. So they have to do more in-house and spend less money. This is one reason for a need for an innovation method, but one of the main reasons is also the digitalization and the digital transformation we are already in. So this is, the picture is quite clear. So yesterday we were in this very analog area in the legal field. Today we are already in a more digital world. And what also changed from the behavior and expectations of consumers is especially this expectation that everything has to fit in our mobile devices. And this behavior that we are all doing all the time, like every day in our private life or in having a convenient service or whatever, transfers also to the law. And people are not willing anymore to read, I don't know, 500 pages contract anymore. They expect also that it has to be shorter, easier, and yes, has to fit in our pocket, as I may say it. And we don't know yet what and how the world tomorrow will look like. Maybe we are all only in virtual environments and have contracts and legal issues tackled there. So what I wanted to say is we are in the middle of a digitalization and transformation process already, and the legal industry has to have a reaction on that and be proactive. It would be even better. And just to repeat that, what are the legal design principles? It is, first of all, to put people needs in the center of your attention, which also means that you have to empathize with the respective user that you try to find a solution for, no matter if you develop a digital app or no matter if you develop any legal content or give people a better access to justice. The most important thing in the legal design context is to find out what the people needs in the respective situations really are. A multidisciplinary collaboration is of the essence as well, because you can, if you integrate all different perspectives in your solution process, you can also figure out where special pain points from different angles sits, and you can integrate them in your solution. And this is something new also for the legal industry, because multidisciplinarity was not yet on the forefront for lawyers. Lawyers see themselves often as experts only, and they stay in their own bubble. So this multidisciplinary collaboration is really of the essence and is a new principle also for the legal industry if you take legal design as a method for developing solutions. Another very important aspect is to visualize and prototype as early as possible, as you now did also with your with the energizer and the question before we started with my presentation. We saw that people loved most yesterday the interactive sessions and the interactive workshops and developing something. So that was my imagination of the answers that you got. And that is, you know, a crucial part of the legal design method per se. So the visualization of a solution, an idea, or a problem, and of the prototype and the testing is just of the essence. And as you experienced yesterday, it's also fun, and it is also a way to, yes, look at a certain challenge with a different perspective. And one of the let's say the fourth major aspect is to build first a culture of innovation in legal organizations. And this is something that might be very hard in traditional environments. And this is what we also experience every day as legal designers, that is probably one of the most obstacles that we have to overcome first. Because without an innovative mindset, legal design will maybe fail or just do not lead to the results that you wish for. So that is really an essential principle if you consider legal design as a method. What can you do with legal design? There are so many areas that legal design can be applied since it is a method. You can use it for justice systems, let's say, especially in the context of access to justice, HJ. You could also design courts and how they function. And maybe you read lately the book of Suskind, it's Online Courts and the Future of Justice. And it is all about, not all about, but in parts, a lot of how courts have to be designed in the future, that we can interact easier and give a better access to justice for people who search for advice. You can also design policies with it. Also, Margaret showed yesterday a little bit of policy making and policy design. You can redesign or design any legal content with it. And since my presentation is about contract design, that is then later in my presentation also the core. So the content of legal design is to be redesigned with the method, but you could also redesign or new design business models, ecosystems, products, workflows, and services. And since the legal industry is a respective service industry, this is one of the major areas that you might apply legal design. So just wanted to give you an overview that it is not only about a special field in the legal area, so it's everything you can design with it. And since it is relying on design thinking as a method, you can even redesign your whole attitude in your life and your work style. So there is a lot of opportunity areas here for all of us in the world to apply legal design. And as I said, my focus today is how to make contracts better with legal design. And it is not only about business contracts, it's also about consumer contracts. And I will lead you to my view on how we can make contracts better with legal design. There is the World CC Studies. I don't know if you know this organization. There are, I guess, more than 60,000 companies worldwide in this association. And this association is only about contracts and how to deal with contracts. And they made several studies or make studies all the time. But there are two studies that stood out for me in the context of understanding a contract. And they found out that 88% of business owners find contracts hard to understand. And this is something you have to digest slowly, I would say, because 88% of business owners do not understand their contracts or find it hard to understand. Then maybe we as lawyers, or one as a lawyer, should maybe think about, okay, if they don't understand the result I am bringing, maybe I should reframe or redesign my contract language, my contract style, everything that belongs in the context of contracts. And there's another study of the World CC that found out that this not understanding or find it hard to understand is also leading to a 9% loss of the annual revenue, because this is also combined with poor contract management costs in the context of not understanding what you are doing. And it is in bigger organization a real risk, and could save a lot of costs if you focus your design area maybe on contracts. So that's why I think it is so very important. And what the goals and the impact you can have with contract design is a simplification of processes, but also the simplification of the content, easier access. So which means you could have as an impact better workflows, optimization of workflows, and cost saving, as I said before. And what you can achieve also with contract design is user-specific, useful and usable solutions, which means that the understanding of the legal matters in the contract context could also be preventive, and is, if you are in the business context, but also in the consumer context, it's also building trust. And this is one of the core issues in contracts that you might achieve, is this trust building moment. And I will have an example later for you in a case that I did together with Airbus, where this building trust moment was of the essence. And I wanted to share with you some quotes of two real clients of mine, which makes so maybe understandable for all of you here that lawyers of law firms and in-house lawyers do not speak the same language, which is one of a problem. So this is not only about the contract language, it is also about the expectation language. So the law firm lawyers, for example, say, I don't have time to simplify my contracts because I can't bill that to my clients. On the other hand, the in-house lawyer says, we spent 6 months and a lot of money of our law firm to create a contract, but no one of the relevant users understands it. So as you can see, and I wanted to share it, they're not even talking at the same level. So for an in-house lawyer, it is important that he or she understands the contract, and especially the users of a contract, which might be a consumer or might be a client, has to understand it, or also in the internal organization, I don't know, the sales department, whatever. And on the other hand, the law firm lawyer is focusing a lot on the billing of simplification. And I think there is a lot of opportunity for law firm lawyers here to come up with a simplified content from the beginning. So, but I just wanted to share, because that was a lately, I had this different quotes, and I wanted to share it with you to see also this, aspect of how can we better communicate with each other if we are in, in a business context. And I wanted to start to show you some examples of how we can make it better. And that is it's not a contract, it's a ticket, a flight ticket. But, and we are not flying so much at the moment, but nevertheless, it just shows us that the same content could be so easy if you use another style of visualization, or you put it in clear design or information patterns, and compared the above to the below version, it's just obvious that visual help you to orientate yourself better and easier. And this is just something you could take have in mind if it then comes to contracts. I want to share with you two interesting studies. One of the Visual Capitalist, it was last year published, you can see it at their website, where they made a survey of terms of services from the usual platforms that we are all using, like Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Twitter, and co. And they measured the time of reading, of average reading time, if you, if you, before you click the agree button of the terms of service, you would have to take into account when you really would read it. We all know that most consumers do not read it, but that is really dangerous. And I don't know if any one of you already saw this very good movie, The Social Dilemma. And they say, if you don't pay for a product, you are the product. So probably there is a lot of content in their terms of services also that, you know, makes it possible to use all your personal data and other data for their own purposes. And I just found it so interesting to share it in the context of contracts. So Instagram, for example, would need you an average time of reading of 9 minutes and 42 seconds. If you take MS Office, for example, or Microsoft Office, it would take you 1 hour and 3 minutes. So I miss a point here. So, but it's 1 hour, not a day. So it's 1 hour. And Macbeth, so from Shakespeare, will take you in comparison 1 hour and 11 minutes average reading. So they counted together that you, if you, you know, parallelly use platforms, and this is what we all doing. I mean, we have maybe 10 or 20 or 100 applications on our mobile phones, and we use them all the time. So it would need in average time 250 hours if you properly read and understand the content of this contract that you are then concluding with them. And I think this is something to really have, to have in mind when it comes to consumer contracts. And another study in that context from 2019, also very interesting. So the New York Times did their own study about the average reading time of privacy policies from Craigslist, Yahoo, BBC, Facebook, Uber, Airbnb, and many others. And they came to the conclusion it takes 18 minutes, which is also very long. Nobody reads 18 minutes. We all only click, I agree. Even me as a lawyer, I click agree. Everyone is just, you know, clicking agree. But that can't be the end result, I would say. So we have, as lawyers and the one who providing services in that context, we have to make the content shorter so that people can understand, or we have to structure in a way that people really can understand. And another very good finding, and this is also something Marie found out in the context of this children example. So they found out with the New York Times studies that the average education is only on a higher level has to be on a higher level if you want to understand the content of those privacy policies on these platforms that I was mentioned. So it can't be that only higher educated people are able to understand the content, which takes 18 minutes in average to read, which nobody's doing. So for me, as a legal designer and for the legal design world, this is just a shout out for make it simpler, but also safe, and make it make the language understandable for all human beings. And if we come back to the human-centric aspect, so we cannot continue working like that, in my opinion. So I wanted to share it with you, but the good thing is there is already out there a lot of examples how we can do it better. So this is one of Euro, this contract lifecycle management company of UK, and the design is from Stefania Pasera. I don't know if she's here, but I have seen Helena Hapio, a very colleague, of her and also of mine. And she did a very nice example. This is already 2 or 3 years ago, but it made a lot of impression. Euro were also reporting about that they had a strong awareness on privacy policies now, that they give an overview in a glance. And as you can see, there is a very good entry interface, I would say, to have an overview what types of private data are getting used, collected, and processed. And if you want to know more, you could click on tell me why and have a deeper understanding of that. But this just, makes it easier for a user to understand what's happening if you go on this site, for example, this website. Another example of an online data protection. This is of a recent. It's a recent use case in my own practice. It's not finished yet, so it's more. It's not a prototype, but it is not published yet. That's what I want to say. And you can't see, and I can't show it to you right now. And this is all I can share, unfortunately. But it is a interactive way how to explore private your personal data and privacy policies, because it is integrated let's say kind of a flight over your personal data policy. It is moving, and you can interactively move it also around. So it sounds mysterious right now, but I can't share it with you. Once it is published, I might publish it, and then you can see it. But it is really interesting. We tried to make it as simple as possible, but also interactively achievable and approachable, let's say, and to have kind of a gamification background on it, and give also people the opportunity to have fun with getting information about how their personal data are being used. Because what we don't want is that people maybe see at a glance what's going on, but we want people to understand and engage with their informations that are used. So once it is published, I will show. And those are some prototypes before we came up with the solution I just showed you in the picture before. And this is also just to give you a glance how I, for example, then approach a contract design with info design, so that I first make a scribble prototype and come up with, kind of a systematic overview of those privacy policy and data, how it is used, just to give myself also a better understanding how could we maybe then use it in an info design graphic later. Then I wanted to share with you online data protection of visual contracts. This is from Lieke Beelen from the Netherlands, also a colleague of mine. And she also gives on her website kind of a journey and easy to, let's say, information and divide it into information snippets on the respective step you are in your contract or data privacy journey. And probably this is something you also did yesterday in the workshop, that you have kind of a journey mapping. But this is exactly what you see here as an example on her website. You can follow her there. This is another example. I guess the designer was again Stefania Passiere, but I'm not so sure, but I guess. It's about the Busumo agreement, and it also gives a human readable summary, which I find remarkable. If you compare it to a general contract alone, this expression, human readable summary, I love very much. And also the kind of visualization and guiding the user step by step through the process that one is going on this website. So this is again online. So maybe to as an excursus, is also very crucial if you design for someone a better contract or something related to contracts, that you have in mind what the respective environment will be. So here we have an online environment, but people working also in analog environments, and this is what we have to take into account as well. You probably might know this comic contract of Rob De Roy from South Africa, where he tried to use only images, especially for illiterate consumers and employees on a farm. And I think it's interesting to see this as a example for, you have always to find out first who is your audience and who is your addressee. And if, for example, like we see here, a comic contract in print format is the right medium to communicate with your respective user, then you probably should also rely on coming up with pictures like this. Don't do it online, do it in a print way, or do it online and print. So you can also put it in different mediums. But this is something from the design aspect you have to take into account when you come up with the right solution for the respective user. That's why I wanted to share it with you. This is a late, so it came out in the last quarter of last year, 2020, from Tony Cioccoloni. A one-pager employment agreement that is also very impressive because it's only a one-pager and it guides the user and the employee through a very branded, so brand styled, let's say, way of giving them information about the future employment situation they're in. And I guess it's a very good example of how we can totally, also in a business context, come up with different designs, with different visuals, with different approaches. And also this comic style, terms and conditions are very interesting. I unfortunately have not seen the whole terms and conditions, but I guess it is really kind of a whole book. And I know the title of this, and I think it's super cool to come up with a different visualization that might fit the user need in this respective use case better than a classical Word document. And this is maybe then a good way to make it very tangible also from this use case of Airbus that I was mentioning before. This is an NDA, and we had yesterday an NDA application from Marie seen. But this is a very nice project where we went through the whole legal design process as we know it, and as you also discovered it yesterday in the design thinking session. We made a large, so the challenge was to come up with easier NDAs for startup companies from Airbus. They are dealing a lot with startup companies because they're interested in new ideas, fresh ideas. And they discovered that the NDA process is sometimes very long and not very smooth. That's why also together with my design friend Kpis, and we did that project together, we came up with this legal design process, made a large research, first met with the internal innovation team of Airbus. And we had in the first session, it came from Airbus, the question, okay, we are in startup environment, maybe they don't have sometimes an own legal department. So how could we make it easier for them to not deal so much with legal aspects and to have a better understanding and go quicker into making business together. And they had the idea to maybe, because an NDA is not so often litigated, they came up with the idea to maybe get rid of NDAs in that context anyhow. And we did then a large research and also interviewed startup companies and found out in the research that getting rid of NDAs and not concluding an NDA would be the worst thing for startup companies that you might go, because they are very afraid of that a big company like Airbus is just taking the IP that they invented and do something else with that, which is totally understandable in retrospective. But we found it out by concluding interviews. And what another issue of this research was that it is hard for a small startup company to have a trustful and a trustful relationship with a big organization. And this is something startup companies fear also if they go into business with them. And that was so interesting then to see that this trust building moment I was reflecting earlier is one of the major aspects that even in an NDA process is already very important. And to make this example short, we came up here with a Word and print solution. So it's then printed out, but you use Word in a technical environment. But it was also, it was not an application or in a, I don't know, contract lifecycle management. It was in Word because most of the people are using Word. And that is another aspect you have to take into account. If the user or the addressee of your contract is using Word as an environment, then please come up with a solution that he could use. If you come up with, for example, a fancy application where everything is possible doing online, but it just does not fit the environment of the user or the client, then it is not very user-friendly to come up with a different technique. This is, I just wanted to share. And as you see, this NDA looks different than others. We integrated some explanations here for legal expressions, but also kind of visualizations. And it was a very interesting project. So coming back to the question I already had before, is contract design adding color? No, it's not. So it's about going through the whole process, as you found out yesterday in the workshops, to go step by step with the design thinking process and focus first on the right problem. And one of the crucial aspects is the first step to emphasize with the respective user. Define the problem, then go into ideation, prototype, test it, and always test it and iterate it as long as it really fits the needs of the respective user. So this is something you know already. And now this is something I would like to share. I just came up with it yesterday. It's I got inspired by Helena Hapia, she is also here. She and her colleagues had an expression, legal health and wellness. And I would love to establish this legal well-being pyramid, maybe also as an experiment with you here in this session right now. But what I think is we have kind of a need pyramid or a opportunity pyramid, let's say, where at the lower level you see like legally profound contracts or legal services. So it's not only about contracts, could be legal services. And this is the traditional way of drafting contracts or deliver legal services. In the middle, you see user-friendly contracts like easy to access, plain language, short text explanations, visualizations, icons, and so on. But on the top of this pyramid, I see a delightful and multidimensional legal experience along the legal contract journey. So which is really the top to achieve. And no matter in which medium you are, this contract or the legal experience of the top of the pyramid is, in my view, the most important thing to achieve in the future. And this is something we could, in the legal industry, all work together to come there someday. Again, here some impressions of how we usually work. I also do I'm in the advisory board of the legal lab of Serpentine Galleries together with Marie. And just to show and share that we also use Mule or Miro in all these, you know, first actions, how we do surveys and interviews and how we then work together. And this is just to give you an imagination also in the real world. Once, so before when we met in person, we do co-creation workshops, always with this focus on what are the user needs and how can we find out better solutions together. And this is something that you might have seen before if it comes to user experience as an expression that is, you know, it goes without words, that sometimes the design that you think is right for your respective challenge maybe does just not fit the real world. And as you see here with this path people were taking instead of the designed pathway, it just shows you that you have to look to what the user really does, what the user really needs. And I think this is just a very good image that shows it. And when it comes to contracts, I see a lot of questions if you achieve it and goals that you can achieve with it. So it's and this is why I put out this, or I designed this map for you, and always with this mindset, what are the user needs, and what are the goals a respective contract wants to achieve. So it is trust and partnership. You have to ask yourself, does the design and the visuals that I'm using really help to understand the user, the contract? You also have to think about what is really important in my content. And I like very much the idea of the reversive sandwich technique by Verity White. She's from Australia. And she says, instead of having the best part in the middle of a contract, like in a sandwich, please reverse that style and put the most important things or at the beginning or at the end. And I think this is very cool to just remember, because it's so easy. And I think this comes to the core. Give users the main important informations right away or shortly before they sign something. And this is what you can also solve with the content question. Then always come up with the question of what language do I use? Who is my addressee? As we've seen before in this example of this terms of services and privacy policies. So think about, is this understandable for the respective addressee? Do I have to use plain language? Do I have to use a little legal language? Who needs what? So this is crucial to rely on. And in the back end, I would say, you also have to take into account in which digital environment or systems does the data fit of your contract that you are designing. So is the user in a virtual or in a digital environment, or is he in an analog environment? And also so this is KYC here at the right, at the bottom at the right. So know your client, know your customer. So, and think about what are the right channels to use a contract, and how can, for example, if you come up with visuals, is there a possibility to also reflect the visuals in the data environment? Because this is probably another problem that we're then facing. If we only use icons, then we probably have to have a digital representation also for the digital, for the icons and for the visuals. And that is something we have to think about, if this is useful or not, and how much visualization and in what style you can integrate in your contract. So that just gives and rounds it up what I wanted to share with you. Also KPIs and measuring success. We heard that already yesterday from Marie. One of the crucial things of a legal design projects, especially in contract context, is to come up with at the beginning of every project, to come up with possible KPIs especially in legal in-house organizations, and think about what you can measure. And my experience is that most of, so not law firms and not in-house departments do yet have any KPIs. So, and KPIs could be the length of contracts, the length of how internal organization is required to have approvals. It can be everything that you can measure, and before every legal design contract project, come up with the respective KPIs you want to measure with the client. And this is now the last from my end before we maybe have some time for questions. I came up with the idea of, yes, having mercy with poorly designed legal documents. And I was posting that on my LinkedIn profile. And I offer everyone here also to download this Design Me sticker from my webpage, because I wanted to give documents a voice, because sometimes people just don't realize that it is not understandable. And with that sticker, maybe we can gain awareness. And as you can see, it already raises awareness. So last week or the week before, I was just posting an opinion of mine of the AstraZeneca contract with the EU. And I think this is a perfect example where legalese and not a very detailed expression could lead to misunderstandings. And this is my opinion. And we had an incredible discussion on the LinkedIn profile about that. You can see it, and it raised awareness. And as I said, if you want to raise awareness in your own organization, feel free to download the sticker. It's on my webpage, and if you want to have it in physically, you can also send me a message and I will send you some. I have some left here, and I'm happy to produce more if you need one. So this, I think I'm gonna stop sharing my screen right now. Yes, and would be open for questions.
Yeah, I would like to make a tiny announcement about this. If you raise your hand, I just send an ask to unmute thing to you, and you may simply ask your questions directly. I just saw that Aki raised hand, so I'm just unmuting it. And if you don't want to talk, I'm going to read from the chat. It's also okay. Aki, can you hear me? You can unmute yourself.
I can't hear anything.
Okay, so I'm continuing with the chats. I can just ask, do you think visual clutter can be a problem in legal design, even leading to obfuscation or predatory practices with malicious intent?
I don't understand the question, to be honest. So what do you really mean? So the one who wrote it, maybe he can unmute himself, because I need more context on that.
Okay. Ekin, I just sent ask to unmute. Sadly, the microphone is not working. Okay, so maybe you can just write explanation about it. Okay, so I may move with the second question. Esan asks, how do you deal with the oversimplification and losing important points when designing?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. Thank you for that. So thank you also for using oversimplification. In my opinion, there is not a, you can't oversimplify, to be honest. And this is also the question I love to answer, because if you talk about legal design, it is always the balance between what is legally necessary and what is possible from a design aspect. So this is also the challenge for legal designers, and that's why I think that a legal background, or at least a profound legal understanding, is crucial if you are a legal designer. You have to understand what is the most important content that you have to communicate in a contract. And so the design does not mean, or legal design does not mean to reduce any legal position. On the contrary, you should take into account to make it as simple as possible that everyone, or especially the respective user, can understand it. And oversimplification is, in my opinion, not possible if you have that in mind. So really think about what is necessary from the legal context and what is possible in the design context. So I hope I answered your questions, Isen.
Perfect. How do you react to the people concerning is this legal when they see illustrated and legally designed contracts?
I react in the same way and say and since coming from a human-centric approach, everyone and everybody is a human. So I think that it is also for judges or lawyers or people using or addressees of legal content in general are always human. So if the reaction "this is not legal" concurs, which also happened in the NDA testing, let's say, then try to find out what people mean with them. So you have to also ask them, what do you mean by "this is not legal"? And sometimes it turns out that this is not legal. It's connected with a fear of that this is not legally binding. And if this is the case, you have to find out where let's say, the line is, how legalese you have to go and how not, and what has to be in the contract and what had not to be in the contract. And if you find out that this is not legal, then probably you should come back to have maybe a legal expression. And we did that, by the way, in the NDA case, because there was one visualization in the prototype first for a complicated expression, and they said, yeah, this is not so legal. And then we combined it with an explanation. So we still used the legal expression, let's say, but had a visualization at the margin to explain in a visual way how what it really means. So I guess this is not legal. You have to ask back what the respective person really means with it. And this is not legal is also a fear of lawyers who are not trained in different kind of visual contracts. And in my opinion, we are still on the, let's say, at the beginning of this movement. And in my opinion, it also needs training of lawyers to see more and more examples of what is possible with visualization without losing the legal important content. And as I maybe did also in this presentation, if there is anybody who says this is not legal, or or I fear it's not legal, try to find out what he really means and show him examples of visualized contracts or of contracts that are a little bit visualized, to find out where is the level you might find the right solution for him or her.
Okay, thank you. And moving to Sinan's question. Given that legal design is considered a novel legal method for an accessible justice system, do you think the criticism is a result of precedents and customary practice in the legal and administrative environments, especially relevant for continental European systems such as Germany, Turkey, and Switzerland?
I don't know if it is a criticism. I think we find out at the moment that it can be done better, and we see the pressure to make it better. And I guess it is part of history that the awareness for things like that are just coming up. And I think, as I also said before, it's also because of this. It's about the way we communicate and explore and experience services in other contexts. And I guess this is a worldwide. It's a phenomenon, let's say, and not a criticism. So I guess it's a starting point to consider to make it better, and it's a chance we all can take and make it better.
Okay, Sinan also asks, have you experienced any challenges where the use of legal design method is more frowned upon in certain fields of law, administrative law, employment law? Are current criticisms more from academia or from practice?
Let's say, if you come or if you are in the consumer context, then legal design method is more on the forefront, let's say. As I said, with the data protection or the privacy policies that we have seen. This is a very, very good field, and also employment law. It is a very good field of coming up with easier solutions and design, legal design method applied solutions. If you come, I don't know, in a context of a big merger and acquisitions and a very complicated business context, maybe it is not the first thing you want to simplify. But as we also saw in this European contract situation with the vaccine and AstraZeneca, even there you could make with a better language, with clearer language, maybe also visualization, you could have done it clearer, in my opinion, and better. And I don't know, so the criticism from academia, a practice, I wouldn't say that there is, you know, more here or more here. So it's, as I said before, it's more the fear of, I don't know yet, because I'm not trained in that new kind of seeing things or developing other contracts or legal content.
Thank you again. And Nicholas asks, what are the KPIs you would use?
Yeah, so it depends on the organization you are in, but there are a lot of KPIs to measure in the context of contracts that I mentioned before, which is, for example, reading time. It is the way that we can measure how understandable is a contract for the respective user. And you can measure, for example, as a contrast, how a contract is understood in the traditional way, and later if you do a design process, how is it then understood when once it got designed, and do you have a differentiation in understanding, in, you know, the level of complexity of language, the length of a contract you can measure. You can measure the amount of approvals, especially in in-house organizations or in companies. You can measure the amount of approvals you have to take to conclude one contract. You can measure the time every single department or person needs for a respective contract task to do. You can measure the amount of I don't know, instruments you are using. You can, so there are a lot of KPIs in the context of contracts that you can measure. And the crucial thing is to start with, let's say, the measurement of the situation you are now in, to then compare it later when you had a legal design process, and compare what went well and what went not well. Because if you come up with a legal design process and you have it's not getting better, then maybe also the design process does not make sense. And this is something, for example, I also want to invite you, and this is also part of design thinking. If you see that one idea that you have does not fit or does not bring any advantage, then you have to be so open-minded to pivot this is this pivoting moment that we talk about in the design thinking process. If the solution does not fit, go back and find another idea to solve the problem. Or maybe the idea that you found in the prototype you produced does just not fit the original problem. And maybe you have to go back into research and find out where the real problem sits.